Welcome you all in the Study Abroad podcast series powered by Great Learning. Today we have another very interesting and pertinent topic for you all. What we are going to be talking about today is career opportunities post you finish your MBA or a master's degree in the US. And to share insights on this topic, I have just a perfect speaker. I have someone who has been there and done it all. I have Mr. Milan Kopikare. Welcome, Milan.
Thank you, Shweta.
Noel has been, has studied in the US. He is currently President North America, Great Learning. He is also an educator. He teaches at University of Utah as well as IIT Bombay. He has tons of industry experience. He has remained a product head at Vortrix and other top organizations. I'm talking about McKinsey, Google. He's also an entrepreneur. He has remained a founder for XM Research. Other than that, like I mentioned, he has done it all. By that, I meant he has studied in the US as well. He's been in the US for more than 2 decades, I believe, by now. And he has studied at the top institutions around the globe. He studied at IIT Bombay, and then he moved on to Stanford University, and post which he did his MBA at Kellogg School of Management. So Milind is going to be sharing all the insights that he has gained over the years as a student. Once again, Milind, we welcome you to this episode in the Study Abroad podcast series by Great Learning, and we are looking forward to enriching insights from your end. A lot of our students ask us a bunch of questions when it comes to studying abroad in the US, and I feel that all that you have seen over the years, and now that you are also teaching in the US education system, this is going to be really helpful for all the students. A lot of questions, and I would advise that let's dig in quickly. So first thing first, Milind, I'd like to ask you that you are someone who has studied in the US, and after that you moved on, you did your master's, your MBA in the US. So what are these key differentiators as for your experience between the two education systems, that is Indian education system and US education system?
Well, thanks, Shweta. Thanks for having me and the opportunity to talk about my own experience. To answer your question, what are the key differences between getting educated in India versus say getting educated in the US, especially when it comes to masters? My experience has been that in India, so I studied at IIT Bombay, one of the top universities in India, and that was a great experience. However, the experience there from an academic perspective, I would say was very theoretical. So they did teach a lot of theoretical concepts. Vis-a-vis, if I compare it to my experience when I came to the US and did my master's in the US, it was very practical. So the courses focused a lot around hands-on experience, around building building projects, building things, with your hands. Again, my master's was in engineering, so maybe that may also be the reason why. But in general, one big difference that I see between the US education versus the Indian education is, the US education is much more practical, while the Indian education focuses more on conceptual knowledge. So that's number one. The second difference that I would say is the diversity. So in India, almost all my students were, Indians. And especially in a technical, in an engineering institution, it was males. In the US, what I found as a big difference was the sheer diversity. The diversity in terms of people from different nationalities. So, for example, there's a report by the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration in the US, which shows that on average, about 1/3, 30%, 33% of the student population in any given American university comprises of students from outside the US, from a variety of countries. When I was doing my master's, I got to meet students clearly from China, from India, but also students from Europe, from the African countries, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, from the Latin American countries, from Southeast Asia, from the Middle East, from Australia. And what that did was it broadened my perspective. It broadened my perspective around, how things work in other countries and the kind of problems and the ways to problem solve a problem based on your nationality. The other thing I would also mention is the diversity in terms of gender, right? So nearly 50% of the population in the U.S. university was females, was women, compared to in the Indian engineering institution would primarily be mostly male dominated. So in general diversity is much more. Um, and if I had to add a third point, I would say it is the opportunity around jobs. So both in the Indian university as well as in the US university, you would get access to jobs. What I have found is that the US university, the average salary that you get, the average median salary that you would end up with when you finish your master's from the US university would be much higher, right? Clearly also because you're getting paid in US dollars compared to if you'd be paying in Indian rupees. But that would be another big differentiator between, the eventual outcome after you finish your master's from a US university versus an Indian university.
Very important, topics that you talked about when it comes to theoretical knowledge, which is, predominantly given in the institutions that we have in India, which is perhaps the reason when these students get recruited in the organizations, they have to undergo another set of training, because even the employers understand that the students that they have recruited as at this point of time may not be immediately, they will not be able to deliver in the organization. So they will have to go through that practical training. Versus if you are studying in the US, I'm sure you would agree with me that this separate training right after your graduation may not be required, because you have already dirtied your hands and you have done a bunch of projects as part of your curriculum, and you do understand what is demanded out of you in an organization by gaining that practical experience. And we often call it work integrated learning also, which is followed in top institutions around the world, especially in the US. Another topic that you talked about is diversity. When you study with the students from a variety of backgrounds, students like you mentioned coming from African countries, coming from China, coming from Mexican, Latin American countries. So there also you get a lot of understanding of the markets. And then in the future, perhaps if you're planning a product, an organization of your own, you will be able, your like you mentioned, your horizon will be, broadened. You would understand a lot more about various parts of the world, and you would know about, the fitment of your product in various markets. When it comes to international students, right? So in India, how it happens that, a bunch of companies visit your institution, wherever your engineering college per se, and then they mass recruit students. And after that, the training happens, as we know about. So the placement assistance is very strong over here in India via this, the drives, the placement drives, which are organized by the colleges themselves. Is it the same in the US? Because this is one of the most common questions that we get from the students, that how am I going to navigate the job search process after I finish my master's degree in the US? And how is it different from India, if at all it is different?
There are similarities in the job recruitment process. One is, both Indian and US universities do have a career center, where there is a kind of a job board where you can look at job listings and so forth. But where the differences lie, if I were to look back at my own experience around how I got a job and how my colleagues went about looking for some things I see in a US university is you have, first of all, a lot of access to different companies. How do you get that access to companies who are looking to hire? These companies come to the campus. They engage in various events where they often not just jobs but also list internships, and that happens throughout the year. There are certain times when there's a concentrated number of companies, but in general, there's a strong collaboration between companies and universities where you're always getting access to all the companies, all the top companies who come to the US universities to hire. So that's number one. If you are looking for a job when you go to the US and study at a US university, the first thing you should do is, just make sure that you have your eyes open, because you will have access to a lot of companies who will keep coming to your university to hire top students. The second thing is networking, right? So when these, whether it's the companies who come to your campus and offer to meet you over what they call as a coffee chat, or the many many alumni from that university who continue to stay very closely associated with the university. You have access to both, and you should make an attempt to network with them. Now, that is something that especially a lot of international students are usually shy to do, because they don't. It's a different country, it's a different culture. But if you are willing to network, you have so much opportunities, because these universities are, at least 100+ years old, have thousands and thousands of accomplished alumni who are in very well-to-do positions in that area where the university is, as well as across the US. And you can reach out to the alums who are more than willing to help. And you can also reach out to the many, many companies and try to set up coffee chats, again, in the spirit of networking. The last thing I would mention is, when it comes to looking for jobs, just like how the US education, what they emphasize is hands-on learning, practical learning, that also gives companies an opportunity to understand what kind of projects you worked on. And in a US university, you have a golden opportunity to work on all kinds of, consulting assignments, projects, hands-on learning, and not just work on it, but also display it. Also, let the world know, let these companies who are coming to the university to hire know about, what you built, right? I did that. In fact, during my, I kind of checked the box on all three things when I was doing my master's. I was networking with various alumni. I was networking with various companies. In fact, I got my first job even before I graduated. Why? Because there was a startup who was looking for help for a consulting assignment, and through my courses at the university, I was able to consult that startup and therefore get some real work experience. I also did many projects with across various courses, which I was able to demonstrate to recruiters when they came to my campus and show some real work experience through those projects. So getting real work experience, networking, getting access to companies who come to your campus, these are all things that stand out and what makes the US education unique when it comes to looking for a job.
Right. Also, Milind, you have been an entrepreneur. You have worked in leadership positions in various top organizations. I'm sure you would have been also recruiting people in your teams. So, what exactly were you looking for when you were recruiting, graduates in your team for various positions?
When I was looking to recruit students from universities at my team, I would look for all the things that I just mentioned, which is, I would look for what kind of, not just the theoretical knowledge, but what kind of work experience have they gained to the various projects that they have got access to, when they took up courses. So my advice to anyone who comes to a US university is try to take full advantage of these hands-on, project-based courses. I look for, what kind of additional initiative they showed. So, for example, if you apply for a data analyst, and if you had worked in product marketing or in customer sales back in India, I would look for, have you tried to be analytical in your work when you were back in India, right? So again, the things I would look for is your past work experience. I would look for, at the university, have you taken courses where you did some hands-on work, and what kind of hands-on work did you can you demonstrate that you did during your time at the university? And finally, I'd also look for their ability, their grades. How well did they do when they came to the US, right? Clearly, we would like to have students who have done well in the courses they took, got top grades, because that shows that the student is driven, is bright, and will continue to be a hard worker when they join my company.
Right. So, Milind, what you mentioned, a bunch of resources are available at university, and in terms of the alumni network, in terms of the career fairs, in terms of those coffees and lunches where you get this networking opportunity. But what I understood, that the student needs to be a lot more proactive than they are over here in India in order to access those, the available networks, and will be able to make use of it in order to transition to a dream job that they would have been aspiring for. So a lot of proactiveness is required in these students when they move to US to study.
That's right. That's right.
All right. And Milind, you also talked about, the work experience, the projects, and you talked about internships. So my question to you is that not all the programs may have internships inculcated in them. If a student is not able to access an internship under CPT, the other projects that they do as part of the curriculum, or, sometimes there is a capstone project also as part of the curriculum, will that also be as helpful as an internship is, and in addition to the work experience that they may be carrying from India in the US? So what are your thoughts on that, please?
That's a good question, Shweta. And what I would, what companies are looking for is demonstration of some work experience, right? And being able to demonstration of hands-on skills, whether that comes through an internship or whether it comes through your past work experience, if you have worked before you have started your masters, or whether that whether that comes through the various projects that you do as part of the courses you take, right? They're all fair game. They're all evidence that somebody has got some experience, knows what it takes to work in the industry, has got experience building things, has got experience seeing the whole process from start to finish, right? And that's what we really look for when we are hiring. So if they have done an internship, great. If they have done projects, or in many cases you also have courses where you can consult a company, and even while you are doing your course, that's great too. If you've done capstone projects, that's also a great example of work experience and evidence that companies will look for to see if they should hire you. And of course, I would again emphasize, if you have work, because one of the things that worked against me when I was looking for a job was I did not have work experience before I started my master's. Many of my friends who did have work experience before they started their masters had a huge advantage when companies came to campus to hire them, right? So if you have prior work experience before you start your masters, that's even better, and companies will highly value that when they're looking to interview you.
That's very hopeful. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. Milind, as you must have also noticed as an educator in the US, that STEM degree programs are becoming increasingly popular amidst, international students, especially Indian students. For example, STEM MBA or MS programs, MSCS has always remained popular in these days. MS in data science, MS in data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence is gaining huge popularity. So, would you be able to, from your interactions with the students or from the job market, would you be able to provide some, context around why these programs have become some of the top study abroad programs, especially for international students in the US?
Have been on the rise. More and more students are opting to take STEM programs, even if they do an MBA. Increasingly, many schools are saying, well, they are trying to convert their MBA from just a pure MBA to a STEM MBA, that has some technical courses in it, right? They're trying to make it a technical MBA. And the reason for all of this is driven with a very simple reason, right? The US education system is very fine-tuned towards the demand in jobs, right? So the courses that are most popular are also designed by the university to help the students eventually get a job in the industry. And it turns out that increasingly, and in fact, this is coming straight from the US Department of Education, what they are showing is stats that show that since I think 2017 to 2020, there was a 65% increase in the number of jobs that, STEM-related jobs that were being created. And I think they expect within STEM, AI, data science-related jobs, about 11.5 million job openings, right? 11.5 million job openings in the US alone by 2026. Now, that's a lot of open jobs, and the universities are required to train students to fill up those jobs. And that is why a lot of openings, whether it is, we work with all kinds of schools, almost all the if you look at the top Fortune 500 companies, most of them are now increasingly tech companies, and they're all having huge job openings. So to help fill those jobs, That's where US universities are increasingly opening up positions, opening up seats for various STEM related degrees, particularly in AI and data science. So the usual programs like a MS in data science, MS in AI, MS in machine learning, even an MBA, but an MBA with a technical MBA, STEM based MBA, or a MS Business Analytics. These are all great master's programs to pursue because they set you up to get those jobs that are opening up all over the US. Another thing US government has done to encourage students, in fact, international students, to come and study in these kinds of masters and then take these kinds of jobs is they have provided a 3-year OPT visa. OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. So typically, when you come to the US and finish your masters, you usually get a 1-year OPT, right? You get 1 year to stay back in the US, and when you work with some companies to get some skills. And what happens after that is that it's up to the company to decide if they want to continue to keep you by sponsoring your H-1B visa. Now, if you have a STEM degree, if you've done your masters in any of these programs, such as the MS in data science or MS in business analytics or MS in machine learning or MSIS or MBA, a STEM MBA or a MSCS, any of these STEM related degrees, if you've done a master's in that, then the US government gives you a 3-year OPT, a 3-year OPT. So you have up to 3 years to make up your mind if you want to, continue to stay in the US or if you want to go back. And even the companies who hire you have as much as 3 years to, start processing your visa and letting you, stay in the US more permanently. So that's the other advantage that you get if you were to apply for a STEM related master's program.
Also, this H-1B visa application is a lottery-based system, I understand. So if you have only 1 year of OPT, there are fewer chances that you would be, you would be participating in that lottery versus if you have 2 more years of extension on your OPT period, makes it 3 years of OPT if you're doing a STEM degree program, then you have multiple chances to be part of that lottery, which increases your chances of getting selected or getting that H-1B visa. Is that right?
Converting your OPT to an H-1B, and then after converting it into a green card, which is also called permanent residency, if you have a STEM degree, if you've done a STEM master's. What I also want to add here is that the average median salary that you get from these companies when you do get a job from them is much higher if you do a STEM master's. So, in fact, if you look at some statistics, the average, for example, data science, the average data scientist salary in a place like California is $152,000, right? $152,000 a year. If you just the entry level position when you get started itself is $124,000 a year. And once you get some experience, that can very quickly climb up close to $200,000 a year salary. So all in all, even your average salary, you don't just get a 3-year OPT. You don't just get the best jobs. You also get a much higher financial return on your investment if you do a STEM related master's degree.
Milind, if I may also ask you that, many a times I've heard students saying that I want to choose a university which is in New York, or I want to choose a university which is around Silicon Valley, because these are the hubs where, people think that most of the tech jobs are in these areas, and which is why choosing universities closer to these areas is going to be the most beneficial for them. However, staying in New York is not going to be a cheap process at all. The living expense in New York as one of the most expensive cities to live. So that obviously increases the expense on the student's part. So what are your thoughts around that? Are there really specific regions only in the US which are particularly attractive to these students? And if they choose any other university outside these regions, their chances of getting a good job or starting their career with a good option is going to be less?
Not at all. I don't think so. That if you are not in these top cities like Silicon Valley or New York City, I don't think that would come in the way of you getting a highly desirable job. And my reasons are the following. Right. So one is what I had mentioned earlier. All these universities, they have, when you come to a US university, one of the benefits you get is access to various companies. Companies travel to your university, to your campus, to talk to you, to talk to various students and recruit directly from there. Secondly, universities have also invested heavily in helping their students get jobs by giving them access to all kinds of online platforms such as Handshake, for example, where you have thousands of jobs which are available all across the US. And what they help you do, typically the Career Services Center at a university, they will help match you based on your skill set, based on what you desire, the kind of job you desire to do. They will match you with an appropriate company, irrespective of where they are based in the US, right? So even if you are, in Oklahoma or in Michigan or in Arizona, you have just as much access to these companies which are based in New York City or Silicon Valley as, say, somebody who would be, doing their masters there. In fact, if you look at it from a return on investment perspective, if you want to do your masters in a place like New York City or in Silicon Valley, like a place like San Francisco, the rents are really high. It's a very expensive place to live, right? And as a student, often we have taken student loans, and it becomes very hard to pay such high rents. On the other hand, if you're, say, doing a master's at, say, a University of Arizona or in Michigan or in Oklahoma or what have you, the rents are, at least half of what you would have to pay, if not, in fact, maybe even less, maybe one third of what you would have to pay were you to be in a place like New York or San Francisco. And rents are kind of the biggest expense, right? And after rent, I guess food. But rent would be the biggest expense, I guess after tuition, that you would have to pay while you're doing your stay in the US. By staying in these smaller towns where the rent is less than one of that, you save on that. Again, it makes for a good return on investment, because eventually the jobs that you would get would be similar to what somebody in New York City or San Francisco would get. The other thing that's also happening is the US government is investing heavily across these states, right? Not just singling out any one city, but across US on various technologies of the future. So, for example, battery technology, a huge investment coming up in Michigan, right? In fact, we work with one of the universities in Michigan, I think in Troy, Michigan, and that's right in the heartland of where some of the latest and greatest auto companies, electric vehicle companies, battery technologies are all getting built, right? And the fact that you will be in a place like that means that you don't just save on rent, you also get access to some of these, the best of the best technologies that the US government is investing in these states. So all in all, I think it makes, it doesn't, in short, it doesn't matter whether where you are doing your master's.
Right. And also, like you mentioned about Michigan, and you talked about the automobile industry, even the defense industry set up in Michigan doing very well, flourishing over there. I must also mention that these industries are also heavily recruiting data literate, professionals, and these could be MBA graduates, STEM MBA graduates, and also the data scientist position, for data engineer position, data analyst position. So these roles are prevalent in any industry as of today. So it's not like that you have to be someone who's doing a master's in mechanical engineering and then only an automobile industry is going to be helpful for you to get a job. But like I mentioned, that every single industry as of today, be it healthcare, retail, even sports analytics has become such a big thing, entertainment, everybody is recruiting people or investing in the area of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data analysis these days. So there are definitely a bunch of opportunities for everyone in the other states of US as well. Possible in in India, we have seen that there is a section of students which drifts towards Canada and Germany because the PR possibilities are easier there. However, in US, as far as what we know, the green card and PR is not going to be such a straightforward and as easy as it is in Canada, at least up until now. But even then, a huge chunk of students drift towards USA to pursue their MBA or MS. So, what are those key advantages, besides PR and green card, which is not that easy, which you think is making USA so lucrative for these students?
Yeah, I think a few things that make US kind of the most favored destination. Again, this year we expect about close to 2 lakh students from India to come to the US alone. And I think that's the highest, followed by, I think, probably Canada and the UK. But US is by far, the leader when it comes to being the most preferred destination for Indian students to come abroad and study abroad. And the reasons for that are, pretty evident. The number one reason, why do people come to study abroad? To advance in their career. And the US has the most, not just the most jobs, especially in STEM, like we just discussed, but also the most lucrative jobs, right? The highest paying jobs. So I don't think you'll get higher pay anywhere else in the world as what you would get if you were to take up a job in the US. So that's number one, which is, access to jobs, many jobs, high quality jobs, high paying jobs, right? Second thing, when you bring the talk about green cards, yes, it is getting increasingly harder to get green cards, no doubt about it. But it's still a lot of green cards. So first of all, the number of, what happens is if you want to work in the US, you start with this OPT that we just discussed, followed by the H-1B visa, followed by, green cards. And all of these are, significantly higher than what you would get, say, in any other country, right? So that's number one, that you have, and that's also because you have many more people who want to come to the US. Thirdly, the US government also realizes the value of having, highly trained immigrants who want to continue to work in the US. So, for example, the USCIS, the US Citizenship and Immigration Service, recently revealed that it would provide employment authorization cards to some, non-immigrant categories for 5 years, right? So there's a recent update about how they are trying to help the, those who have come to the US, to study and who have studied, especially in a degree like STEM, because these are skills which are highly priced, right? Highly needed for the country. And the US does realize that and is taking steps towards making it easier for people to, get that H-1B and eventually get that employment authorization and eventually get that green card.
That's actually hopeful. I mean, I am sure many of us do not have not read the recent reforms, and also when you are going for a degree program which has most number of jobs, that means there is a requirement. I believe that also become a part of your profile when you're applying for your H-1B or when you're applying for your green card, and that could make the process slightly easier for you as compared to the other non-STEM degree holders, I suppose, because the country also requires professionals such as.
Absolutely. If you have a master's degree, you are put in a different category when you apply for your H-1B, which makes it even easier to get that, to be granted that H-1B. At a high level, the way to think about an H-1B visa is that the US government says that, look, you can allows companies to hire students who are not US citizens, who have come to the US to study. They can, after they finish their studies, they can join this company. The only requirement is that the company be able to show that they will be able to hire, somebody, a US citizen with that kind of skill set, right? And that is also why doing a STEM-related master's program is highly advisable, because those are skill sets which are very rare, which are highly priced, There's not too many people in the US who have that skill. Definitely not too many who have that skill and a master's in that field. So when you do such a master's, when you can show evidence that you have that skill, it makes it easier to get that H-1B visa.
Milind, this has been very, very enriching conversation. And I have one last question before I let you go. You have been extremely instrumental in getting study abroad vertical ready at Great Learning. It's been a while since we have been helping these students pursue their dream of abroad education with top universities and with a fantastic return on investment. Some of our students have received visas already. They are learning, they're being happy, we're sharing testimonials with us. So all this is wonderful. And we are also learning on a daily basis. What I want to know from you as a pioneer in this field, that how Great Learning, what is Great Learning's vision, or how Great Learning is planning or supporting these students in their journey of studying STEM degrees abroad.
Yep. Well, thanks, Shweta. I'm glad you asked that question. You see, let me just take a step back and talk about Great Learning's mission, right? So our mission has always been to help students advance in their career, right? And whatever those career goals are, each of us have different career goals. Some of us, would like to maybe do a PhD. Some of us want to, get a job. Some of us want to go abroad and get a certain job, right? And Great Learning's mission is to help empower that, help you achieve your career goals. And how we do that, and that's where it comes to the question you asked. How does Great Learning help students, who, especially in this case, students who want to pursue a career in a STEM-related field, would like to do that in a place like the US, and then eventually also get a job in that space, right? So what Great Learning does is, first of all, it starts all the way from counseling the students. So if you are ever thinking about studying abroad, if you're ever thinking about, or even if you're not thinking of studying abroad, if you are planning on a career in a STEM-related field, if you are already working professional, looking to, how can I advance in my career by getting a more advanced degree, I would urge all of you to reach out to go to mygreatlearning.com and check out various courses. And even if you can't decide which is the right program for you, just try to reach out to a program advisor. We have program advisors who will call you and help you think through what would be the best career choice, right? In this case, we work with several universities on various what we call as hybrid programs, where you can, if you're a busy working professional, you can start studying online and earn while you study, and then come over to the US in the second year to do about 2 semesters long, 2 semesters of studying in the US campus, and then after that, get that OPT, and if you decide to stay back in the US and work. Yep. So, but to help you decide what's the right masters for you, to help you decide, whether that would be the right career choice for you, we have program advisors at Great Learning that I would highly encourage all of you to reach out to get that advice. So that's number one, which is advising you on and counseling you on your career. The second thing that we try to help students with is, look, let's face it, a master's education in the US is very expensive. It can easily go to about $100,000, which would be about 80 lakhs, 80, 90 lakhs, right? Potentially a crore. That's a very expensive value proposition. What we try to do is we work with universities to help bring that price down, significantly down, in fact, maybe even as much as 50% down. So we, through our hybrid master's programs, like the one I just mentioned, where let's say if you want to do a master's in machine learning, right? What you can do is you can start on that master's in machine learning while you're working, whether it is in India or any other country outside of the US. You can get started without quitting your job. You can keep earning while you're learning. And then after you finish about 15 credits, about half of that master's, you can come over. In this case, let's say if it's a master's in machine learning, we have one with the University of Arizona. You can come in your second year to Arizona, to the campus, and do 2 semesters of studying on the campus. At the end of it, you will get your master's in machine learning degree, and you will get that 3-year OPT, so you can continue to work in the US. Potentially after that, you can, if you decide to, you can also get your H-1B and then the green card and so on, right? So what this has done is, for those of you who do aspire to come to the US, who do aspire to do a master's and then continue to work in the US, you drastically brought down the cost of that education, right? Almost by 50%. We are saving as much as 55 lakhs for some of our master's programs that students would have otherwise had to pay, right? So that's the second thing, which is cost savings and therefore the return on investment. The third thing that we do is we also understand that, look, you are doing this master's as a stepping stone towards getting that dream career, that career that you're looking for. And while nobody can guarantee a job, what we can guarantee is career support, right? So we, given our mission of helping you advance in your career, we provide a lot of services around doing that master's, where you don't just do the master's. You also, for example, we help introduce you to various industry mentors, people who are working, let's say, again, I'll keep going back to that master's in data science from University of Arizona, where as you're doing the master's, we'll also bring in various industry experts, like a data analyst working at JP Morgan or a data scientist working at Walmart, right? People who are working in the industry, who can guide you on, how they manage to break into that industry. So you can, as you're working towards your master's, plan out your own career, strategize on how you can also get a job in that industry, right? So we provide peer mentoring support, we provide career services, we even help you figure out how to build your personal brand by building your resume, helping you with your LinkedIn profile, helping you, kind of coaching you on how to go about networking in that industry, all with one single goal: to help you get that dream career that you're aspiring for when you come to the US. So again, to sum it up, we provide you, it starts with advising, counseling you on what's the right career choice. Secondly, we also work with universities to help structure a master's that helps you on your return on investment by drastically, bringing down the cost of the master's. And thirdly, we also make sure that this is a master that also sets you up to get that dream career by providing you career support services. Even the masters that we have put together has a lot of project-oriented courses. Again, back to what I mentioned, when companies come to recruit, they look for all that. They look for evidence that you have got hands-on training. And we make sure that the masters that you do has a lot of that, right? So all kinds of career support services, hands-on training, everything, so that you can get that dream job. So these are three things that I would say Great Learning is actively working on to make sure that if you are looking at studying abroad and advancing your career, Great Learning is the right partner for you to achieve those goals.
Thank you so much, Milind, for spending your time with us today, sharing all the insights that you have gained over the years as a student, as a professional, as an entrepreneur, and also as an educator. So thank you so much for all the contribution, also the services that, the vision that you shared from Great Learning, what Great Learning is planning to do in the future also to help study abroad students and rest. Thanks to you all who joined us today. And I am sure that this was an enriching conversation for you. Very soon, we will be coming with another episode, another speaker, another pertaining topic, which is related to your study abroad. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.